I'm Wyatt Cash with Scoop News Group, and we're here with Cameron Chehreh, Chief Technology Officer and Vice President for Pre-Sales Engineering at Dell Technologies Federal Systems. Cameron, thank you so much for joining us.
Always my pleasure, Wyatt. It's such a pleasure to speak with you once again.
Well, let me start by asking, what does IT modernization look like now and mean in 2021 in government?
Yeah, it's a great opening question, Wyatt. As we've talked about our between us as friends many years, IT modernization and digital transformation really has taken on a different context based on the calendar year we lived in, which was traditional business for working in the public sector space. I think what's happened recently, given the extraordinary circumstances in the pandemic and living in a post-pandemic next normal, we see that IT transformation has really become a national imperative. It's the reason and the opportunity and impetus behind us being able to migrate almost 4 million civilian and contract workforce to a remote work from anywhere type of solution when the pandemic was really at its height. So for IT transformation in 2021 and beyond, we're going to see that work from anywhere will remain a staple. And in order to do that, you need modern infrastructure. You need a digitally based infrastructure. So I think you're going to see it become more of an imperative. This administration certainly has shown that. Some of the great work they've done with the budgeting and the budget request process. So I'm encouraged by what I'm seeing, Wyatt, and it's continuing to drive a consistent conversation in Washington.
Well, Cameron, you work with a lot of agencies. How did the pandemic affect the need to modernize more rapidly at some of these agencies?
You know, it's interesting, Wyatt. There's a full spectrum of people across the government culture. You have these early in career people who are born digitally native. They were born with tablets and smartphones and PCs in their hands. And then you have this very senior leadership that has sage wisdom on their side and experience that says, look, we have to modernize. It is a national imperative that we keep on par with our near peer nations. And then there's this frozen middle, we refer to it. Paul Puckett in the Army has some great sayings, and he and I muse over this often, that this frozen middle is where we need to really unlock the value for the government. And as we see modernization as it continues to move forward, it's about unlocking that value in the frozen middle. What the pandemic taught us, and rightfully so, when we went to implement digital infrastructure and IT modernization prior, we always had to look at it with calculated risk and always underpinning a cybersecurity strategy. What the pandemic taught us was culturally, we can accept more, we can adopt more on a much more quickened pace than we ever realized. Shifting to a risk management approach really helped our cyber assurance and demonstrated to all of us culturally that not only can we change, but we can accept and adopt this change in a very safe and secure manner. So I think what we're seeing and what the pandemic has taught us is IT modernization is going to continue. It's going to quicken at its pace, and we can do it safely and securely and still execute our missions effectively.
Well, as you look ahead in the near future, what major priorities stand out now for modernization in government today?
I tell you, I come back to the great work this administration is currently doing around cybersecurity and being able to secure our digital infrastructure. As you've heard in the news, Wyatt, like myself, right, there's a big focus on infrastructure, and that does include digital infrastructure. So being able to have that underpinning and the underpinning investments and vision we see out of this administration with regards to cyber and securing that infrastructure, I think you're going to see that as a key tenet no matter what happens. But there's some great things that are coming behind that. When we look at the adoption of things like artificial intelligence and machine learning, that can help us deal with the explosion of data and information that digital infrastructure is producing. It's allowing us to get human insight into that largesse of data, so to speak, Wyatt, leveraging technology to expand the human potential. So I'm very excited about what's coming. The other thing it's affording us is the opportunity to tap into diverse talent, which was this very pleasant, unexpected surprise. It's allowing us to tap into talent in, say, the Midwest or the rural aspects of our nation and tap all of that talent and wealth of innovation that we never thought to really tap with going into a physical office prior. So working in this digital construct has allowed us access to all kind of innovative thinking, really helped us in our diversity goals and inclusion goals, and really helping us drive innovation much quicker for the mission environment and the government.
Well, after agencies largely accomplish some of their modernization work, what comes next?
What a brilliant question. I would offer you in the next 2 to 3 years, Wyatt, we're going to see a pretty significant expansion of computing at the tactical edge. What we're finding is with these modernization capabilities now coming online, and we're seeing modern applications deploying closer and closer to the mission edge, there is this insatiable human appetite that we all have called curiosity. And what that's doing is allowing us to really deploy tactical infrastructure further out to the user to improve the user experience. So we're definitely going to see the rise of edge computing. And what's going to stimulate that is the adoption of 5G. 5G really has been designed for the enterprise from the ground up rather than consumer. It's allowing us to deploy workloads, again, closer to the mission, closer to these new centers of gravity where data are forming. I think the other thing that's going to be very, very exciting is the expansion of smart, right? We think about smartphones, autonomous vehicles, smart appliances, all these different elements of digitized infrastructure that gives us information and knowledge to help us understand situational awareness better. That's very exciting, especially when you look at its application in the field of, say, medicine or national security and intelligence, general healthcare, fraud, waste, and abuse. There's this spectrum of use cases that we'll see the rise of. So I'm very encouraged by those things because at the end, Wyatt, we know there's no endless budgets. We especially see that with government today. But being able to extend or expand the mission capability with a smart use of technology, that's what makes this truly exciting. And I think you're going to see that expansion happen rather quickly from the lessons we've learned post-pandemic.
Well, Cameron, thank you so much for sharing those insights with us and some of your views on what lies ahead for government IT.
My pleasure, Wyatt. Thank you so much for the time.